Okay, so this would be a feedback slash critique for MF Bandit or MF Deadly Commandos. I don't think I've given you feedback before, so let's do the usual. My name is Shazam on Discord, or Captain Schmuck. I think that's what I am in AK. Yeah. I am by no means a Tekken professional, right? I am just someone who plays a lot of Tekken, watches a lot of Tekken, played a bit of Armor King, fought a lot of Armor King, watched a lot of Armor King, right? And so on and so forth, right? I am just someone who is here to say, hey, based on my understanding of Tekken, I think you stand to gain if you try and implement these strategies that I'm presenting, right? Or at the very least, hey, you did this, but have you considered this, right? All of it is really just food for thought. Take what I say with a grain of salt, but take it into consideration. I've watched all the matches so far. Watched the Anna, watched the Lucky Chloe, watched the Kuni, most of the Kuni. And I believe there are some running themes to focus on, right? So I'm going to go throughout this one round to try and pinpoint some areas to showcase examples of what I'm talking about. But the running themes that I feel throughout your game plan, the two glaring areas that I'm kind of like, hey, you need to work on this a bit more, are your approach, right? How you chose to close, not only that, like how you choose to close the distance between the opponent and how you choose to initiate your offense. And then your small Tekken, right? You have bits of it there, right? I see some down forward 1, I see some down 4, but your jab game is non-existent, and I don't think that's possible on any character that has a regular standardized jab, right? Like you need, especially a character like AK where you really just have to have fundamentals, utilizing a plus frame unseeable move, right? This is the thing you got to remember, is that these jabs are super fast and are great on block or hit. And on whiff, right, yeah, technically someone can whiff punish you, but they have to actually read an unreactable move to do that, right? Without going into too much more detail, you need more jabs in your game, and I'll try to pinpoint some areas why, and also just talk about it in general, right? The biggest, and then I guess a tertiary or a subset of that is that kind of like, yes, you have aspects of small Tekken in your gameplay, right? But the biggest issue I'm seeing, a lot of the big issues I'm seeing are stemming from your move choices where, yes, you are technically using good moves, right? But the timing of when you choose to use those moves, or more importantly, your commitment in the context of when you choose to use those moves is just, it's too much. I don't know how to describe it, but you're overcommitting when you don't need to, right? You're going for this big reward option when you can just go for a smaller reward option and instead wait and build up to a better payoff, right? And we'll talk about that some more. For now, we'll just get into the match. So like right here, this is what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so think about your previous instances with this character, right? Or with this matchup. What have you done previously that would actually make the Kunimitsu approach you here? Why do you think she's going to run into your down forward 1 or your down 4, right? Like here, they're just dash blocking, right? Who has the advantage here, right? Who has the life lead? So you, instead of throwing your keep out tools, right? Why are you who doesn't have the health lead? Why are you trying to play keep out, right? Instead, your focuses should be, okay, how do I gain back? How do I start chipping my opponent down and get back the life lead, right? And then you can go back to playing keep out. It looks like you try and start it here, right? You do forward neutral 2, but your spacing's a bit off. Doesn't matter because they're hurt down forward 2, which doesn't launch crouching opponents, so that's fine. But this whole interaction, I'll talk about more later on, but this is kind of the crux of the situation. It's kind of like the decisions you're making aren't bad, right? Using down forward 1, using down forward 4 as keep out, they are not bad options in of themselves, right? But when you take into account the bigger picture, the context of when these moves are being used, that's when the question marks start appearing. Like, why would you do that here, right? What is your goal when doing those moves? We'll talk about goals and objectives later on, but just think about that, right? Like, Look in the context of when you're using those moves. Why do you use those moves? What was your goal there? Do you feel like it was reasonable, or do you feel like you're just kind of autopiloting some habits there? Right here, right? Not counter hit because it would have been launched, but you hit, and then they immediately press jab and then hit you out of something, right? So what were you pressing in this situation? Why did it get beat up by jab, right? And more importantly, why were you pressing that move in the first place? What could you have been doing that after down 4-2 on hit, which is now plus, right, would get beat up by jabs, right? If anything, it's kind of like, well, you should have just done a jab, right? Or down forward 1 or back 1 or down forward 4. Any of those options should have cleanly beat the jab, but they didn't. So what did you press and why? If it was a slower move, I'm assuming it was, those typically have bigger reward on hit, right? But it's kind of like, why? Why press the slower move? Right? At the very least, if you feel like you were justified in the decision making here, what should be going through your head is kind of like, oh, I had plus frames, I went for kind of a greedy option, and they immediately challenged my plus frames. So that should in your head be like, oh, well, they're going to challenge me on my plus frames, or when they feel like they can steal a turn, or if my turn is over in the future. And that should kind of factor into your decision making in future matches, right? But let's keep going. Oh, that was a good back 4. I guess the most surprising thing is I didn't realize while standing 2 recovers standing, because her down 4-2 shouldn't have launched you unless you were mashing or something. So let's just keep going. I was gonna say, like, I was gonna focus on the while standing 2 interaction, but it's kind of whatever. Good block. So let's analyze this interaction coming up, right? Oh, I thought it was something else. Sorry. This is a matchup specific thing, right? I'm not going to comment too much on the Anna, Lucky Chloe, and Kunimitsu matchup knowledge stuff, right? Look up a punishment guide and start lapping out common situations. Lucky Chloe is a lot more like movement based, right? There's just some stuff you sidestep against her and then you'll be okay. Anna, it just felt like you're missing a lot of punishes. I'm not going to comment too much about like, hey, this is punishable, or hey, this is not. You can do that research by yourself, right? But something like this is kind of like, you gotta be on the lookout for that, right? And you should be immediately reacting with the challenge. Like, the screen is literally flashing in front of you. And I think it's a valuable asset in the Kuni matchup to just be ready to challenge it when you can, right? So even no matter what move you press, just start mashing jabs and float her out of it, or be ready with movement, right? But I think it's easier to mash jabs, but I don't know. Anyway, this is not the interaction I wanted to focus on, so let's continue. Rip. Right here, this is what I wanted to focus on. So, round start, you immediately start backing away, you start approaching, and it just feels like you don't know how or what to approach with, right? It feels very uncertain of approaching. You are playing Armor King. He is basically a Mishima, right? He's got discount electric, right? So, but whatever, you just use it for wish punishing, that'll do the job just fine, right? The most important thing when you're a Mishima, or when you get the most important thing about that is that you get a Mishima style crouch dash, right? That is I'm a firm believer, that is one of the most powerful tools in the game. It completely changes how you get to play neutral, right? Your moves get better tracking. You get to completely input anything you want out of that. Is it hard? Yes, but that's why it's powerful, right? Okay, there's a bit of an execution barrier, but the flexibility and power of that tool to give any move you want some extra boosted tracking, some extra boosted masking, any sort of mix-up options, right? All sorts of stuff. All of that from a simple input. And one of the best things is how much fear you can induce from your opponent just by wave dashing in front of them, right? Now, obviously, let's talk about this matchup in particular. It's easier to say, oh, just wave dash and apply pressure, but then, you have to fear Kuni throwing kunai out, right? But another thing is that you should be closing the distance, right? If you did a singular wave dash from this distance, just one, and then immediately block, do you think Kuni's going to react and then successfully hit kunai from this distance, right? Like the crouch dash is unreactable. There is no way for any opponent to react to you crouch dashing, inputting a long range punish tool like kunai, and then getting a successful punish, right? It is very rare. Most of the time it's just unfortunate timing on your part, or they got lucky and had a good read, right? No one's reacting to this. You have an unreactable option to reduce the distance between you and your opponent, so that way you can get closer to using your better tools, right? That you never have to commit to at any point, right? There is no point that in your crouch dash where you have to commit to a move or option. That's what makes it so powerful. You can do nearly anything and everything you want out of it, and at any point of the game you can also just go, I'm not going to do anything, right? And so that can induce a lot of hesitation from your opponent, even from this distance. And you don't need to approach with the move. Just do one, maybe two crouch dashes, and then hold back, see how they react, adjust accordingly, one or two crouch dashes again, or dash block, mix it up so the animation, your opponent's constantly trying to figure out your timings and it can't react. It makes them harder to react to things when they have to look for separate animations, right? And it's another tool to add to your opponent's mental stack, right? From this distance, what are they afraid of from Armor King that they have to watch out for? They can literally just stand at this distance and every button you press will whiff. But if you close the distance with one or two wave dashes, with a dash block here and there, suddenly they're going to be like, well, fuck, he's approaching me. If he gets in range, what is he going to do, right? So utilizing movement, not just as a defensive tool, but an offensive tool, right? How many characters get a Mishima style crouch dash outside of the Mishimas, right? Very valuable tool in neutral, and utilizing it to the best of your ability is a core fundamental skill, in my opinion, of any character that has this option available to them, right? You're not going to be doing wave hell sweep mix-ups, sure, right? But there's still a lot of potential to be unlocked there. Anyway, let's keep going. Right. I mean, they were slow on the punish, but it's whatever. You should have died there, right? But, well, that's fine. We'll talk about that later. Unfortunate mispunish. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so you do down forward 2. Why the commitment to down forward 2, right? What about this shows that she's going to try and sidestep at any point in this situation? If instead you just went jab into down forward 1 into jab, right? You could easily from that distance deal some damage there, or maybe get some pressure going, because a block jab can lead to a pretty good opportunity for a throw, right? Why the commitment to down forward 2, right? Because even though it's not getting punished, you're still being even though there's a bit of a mind game to punishing it, you're still being left at like what, -12, right? Even if the opponent doesn't punish you, you can't press anything, because if they're late on the punish, or if they choose to go for a risky counter hit play and you try to continue your turn, you're dead. Versus down forward 1, versus a jab, versus forward 3 if you have a read on what direction they're going to step, right? And then forward 3, if it gets blocked, that's fine, because then you can go into the string possibly, right? Keep them second guessing themselves about when it's okay to like start pressing. It's just a lot of options that you could have done before relying on down forward 2. I feel like down forward 2 is something that you do when your throws and your jabs are getting stepped, right? Or your down forward 1's getting stepped. You want to discourage that, so that way your jabs into throws, jabs into down forward 1, down forward 1 into throws, right? That those can work. So focusing on utilizing those more. Then if the opponent starts reacting to that, then you go, okay, well, you're reacting or you're adjusting to that style of offense. I have down forward 2, right? To kind of put them back in their place. Right. Also, this is another thing. Why are you using back 2-1? Right? What is... Wait, do you think it's a punish? What's back 2-1? This shit's 15 frames? What the hell? Anyway, look, so this is another thing about Armor King, right? So this is going to be more of a playstyle difference thing. If this is how you like to play Armor King, don't let me stop you, right? You play how you choose to. All I'm simply saying is back 2-1 is trash. That's just the bottom line, right? You're going to do a, what is it, mid-mid into a high-ender string that anybody worth 2 cents in the AK matchup is going to duck on reaction to, right? You're going to do a mid that leaves you a -1 on hit, -12 on block, versus any other mid he has from there, right? Or just kind of implementing a more concise or compact gameplay plan with just doing something like down forward 1 into jab and then using those plus frames into something else, right? Or doing down 3 or to make your opponent regret just stand blocking so much, right? It just feels like with how many options Armor King has available to him, pressing back 2-1 in any context just seems to be the wrong decision, which is the issue here, right? Again, if you like the move, more power to you. I'm not saying you should delete it. I am saying you should be deleting it from your mind. But, you know, free country, right? Do what you will. Why? Oh, it didn't. He should have died there. But so was it a missed input, right? Well, what was the game plan here? Were you thinking that they were going to try and challenge you on pushback? They're already focusing on how to disalign themselves from the wall. They're not focusing on that, right? Okay, so this entire interaction, right? You have to focus more on what are my very low commitment options, right? That will pressure my opponent at the wall without making you do something stupid, right? What am I talking about? CD1 at the wall, right? Down forward 1 at the wall, jab at the wall, down forward 4 at the wall, down 3 at the wall. Any of those options that don't commit to a string, very hard to react to, nigh unseeable, right? Like your opponent's not going to be, they have to have a read, right? They're not going to be able to react to CD1. They're not going to be able to react to down forward 1, right? They're not going to be able to react to forward neutral 2. All of these have to be read, right? So all of those options present various methods of attack without committing to a string like forward 2-1, without committing to a string like down back 2. And all of them provide ways to give you pressure and keep up your momentum, whereas down back 2 kills your momentum, forward 2-1 kills your momentum, down back 3 should kill your momentum, but if they're not reacting and blocking it, hey, more power to them, right? This is the thing. Again, look at the options you're using at the wall, right? And ask yourself, is this really the best option that you could be using? Is this going to give you the best reward? Down back 2 and forward 2-1 are fine as whiff punishers, but as pressure tools, are they really the best you could be doing? I don't think they are, right? And that's the issue, is I feel like your pressure is not structured as efficiently as it could be given the context of the situation. If your opponent's pressing a lot of buttons with their back to the wall, trying to fight their way out of the wall, and you bait a whiff, awesome. Down back 2, forward 2-1, all day, every day, right? If your opponent's just stand blocking and they're instead focusing on movement to try and get themselves out of the wall, right? Consider, how do you just pressure an opponent who's not pressing any buttons, right? Oh, that's right. You use your crouch dash that tracks the opponent, realigns with them so you can use all your other moves, right? Use forward neutral 2, right? Use CD1, right? Because they're stepping in the direction that CD1 is going to hit them, right? A lot of options available to you that are either less commitment, right? Like a jab, very low commitment, down 3, relatively low commitment, down forward 1, relatively low commitment, or offer better rewards and leave you with better in a more advantageous position to use, right? Stuff like CD1, stuff like forward 4, but that's a bit tricky with their movement, right? A lot of things to consider before going for these moves that just don't fit the context of what we're talking about here, and that being the core issue. Miss the punishment opportunity, watch a punish guide, learn your punishes. That's all you, baby. Okay, so this entire time, right, you're getting jabbed, you're blocking stuff. Why are you not sidestepping, right? Why are you not immediately sidestepping left? Yeah, she has a homing power crush, right? But you can easily sidestep block that. A singular sidestep after she just did a move, right? Okay, if you sidestep block here, she's not going to hit you with back 2 or whatever her stupid mid-power homing power crush bullshit is, right? She's not going to hit you. And what instead will happen is that she'll have to realign to keep the advantageous wall positioning she has. But as is, you're just kind of standing there and then just letting her keep the wall. For some reason, they just holy shit! Wait, you can crash dash. That's crazy. Okay, that was actually really mean. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. So the snark comes out when it don't mean to, right? For some reason, this Kuni decides that the best wall pressure is to give up wall pressure, and you immediately crash dash your way off the wall, which is good, right? Solid option there. But what I'm saying is you could have disengaged earlier and giving yourself more breathing room earlier and faster, right? You don't want to be against the wall. You don't want to be with your back to the wall against Kuni. Get out of there. And I feel like you should immediately be looking for those interactions as soon as you can, right? If you want to wait a little bit, like you don't want to immediately sidestep based on you think the opponent's going to read that, sure. After stuff like this, you should immediately be working out like, all right, they just did something that left them in a very commitment position, right? They're still in recovery. Maybe I can't punish them, but I can use these frames to start sidestepping and getting away from the wall. Really solid here. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this beautiful. Two wave dashes, one wave dash, and then immediately a crash dash throw. And you got them, right? Don't need to commit. You're back now. Her back is. This is beautiful. This interaction was beautiful, right? Her back is to the wall. You got huge plus frames and pressure. Counter hit launch. Get the damage. More pressure into the throw. Beautiful, right? All of that from simple crouch dash into close the distance once and then immediately commit to a chain throw, right? And crouch dash throws are solid. Yes, the reward is not crazy good, but it's an unseeable complete 50-50 from crouch dash, right? Is it a hell sweep 50-50? No. Is it a usable 50-50? Yes. And as Armor King, you have to use the tools available to you, right? But this is what I'm talking about. It's just kind of like, yes, when you have opportunities to close the distance from your opponent, be creative. Don't just feel like, oh, I have to respect them, or I have to wait for them, or I have to play keep out when I don't have the life lead, right? Lot of options available to you, right? So here, if you didn't do two crouch dashes, if you did dash block into crouch dash throw, right, also could have worked, right? A lot of options available to you to kind of experiment with the approach. You see, and then now immediately they're just kind of like trying to challenge you in a lot of interactions, right? They're being a bit more aggressive, but this is where you can, counter hit them. You can do back one, down 4-2, etc., etc. Challenging them at the right time, because now they're more willing to press buttons, will now make your counter hit launchers a lot better, right? Love this. Oh, God, that move sucks. Rest in peace, down 4-3. Holy shit. How the fuck did she step that? Anyway, unfortunate, but it happens, right? That move fucking sucks, but it is what it is, right? But immediately, regardless of how it played out, I think this round start or this last few interactions are what I'm saying should be the ideal, right? Start chipping them out, start using a lot of pokes, right? I don't think the decision was wrong. I just think it's the decision was wrong in the sense that the move sucked, right? But the decision to go for forward 4 neutral 2, use the plus frames to your advantage, solid. I don't think that was a wrong decision at all, right? But against Kuni, maybe experiment more with what moves work. Maybe better moves than down forward 3. Like down forward 3, it does a really shitty imitation of Brian forward 3, right? It's just they're not the same move, right? At all. Okay, so good patience here. Unfortunate. And then dies immediately. You'd have to experiment. If you post future matches, consider having the training mode indicator on and having your inputs on so we can get a better understanding of what was going on here so that we know what kind of was going through your head. I don't remember the frames on this move, so... Could you have done back throw? No, she immediately like ducks under it or something, right? Yeah, unfortunate. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I felt like you had the right idea in the previous round, but then right here you go back to your default of just kind of hanging back and then maybe trying to be cheeky with, Shining Wizard or something else, right? And then just it's not working out, right? There are so many other things you could be doing. Even doing CD1, even if it's just plus frames, right? Think about it. How you as a player, how many CD1s can you block in a row before being like, fuck, I gotta duck one of these things in order to actually punish it, right? How many could you honestly block? How many can your opponent block, right? Or if you do CD1 into empty CD and they immediately start flash ducking you, isn't that a sign that like, oh, your conditioning is working out, right? Yes, CD1 has a lot of pushback. You can't generate the plus frames to your advantage that much, right? But think about the other benefits it offers you. Really big move, really showy move on the screen. The opponent's going to block it. They can't do anything for a few frames. They're not going to like that, right? Again, it goes back into like a game of chicken, right? Of like how many times can they really block comfortably before going, I got to do something about this. I can't just let them keep pressing the button, right? I don't think everybody has a price.tv is really the type of player that will just sit there blocking 5 CD1s in a row, right? So you can use that to your advantage, right? But you need to make them remember, hey, this is a tool I have. What is your response to it, right? And then you look at their response and then formulate a game plan accordingly, right? You go, oh, your response is to duck. Well, I have CD while standing 4, right? Or, oh, your response is to duck. I have forward 2-1 or down forward 1 or anything like that, right? And then for each response the opponent has, you also have a response that you can do, right? That ebb and flow, right? So you got to start, but you're not gonna be able to get to that gameplay if you don't give them a reason to respond in the first place. Again, what are you pressing that's getting beat up by jabs and why, right? You're +4. Not all of your toolkit's gonna work, but enough of it should work, right? So what are you losing to here, and reconsider your move choices in this context. Nice ball standing too. Oh, unfortunate. It's okay. Good duck. Unfortunate missing the punish. Just gotta practice those. Oh, nice. Oh. The counter hit was big. Good low parry. Nice. She's dead. Solid. Actually, don't think I watched this round. That's funny. Unfortunate. Oh. Gotta punish those. You deserve to die for that. Oh my god, this Kuni. This Kuni. Okay, I feel like I have an idea of what's gonna happen, but that's crazy. Like, she has the life lead. She can just run away, or they can just run away for the rest of the round, and they're still throwing stuff at. God, online Tekken, I swear. Yeah. So you know, think about it. Like, given how successful the first round that you win, right? The first round, how successful you are able to capitalize on the momentum from crouch dashing and wave dashing, and then it just disappears from your game. Why is that, right? What was your thought process there? What was going on that led to that kind of reaction? That's what I'm wondering, right? Anyway, let's do the usual. Neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge combo / Oki personal opinion stuff. Neutral. I feel like you have a solid foundation, right? You don't press a lot of buttons, you don't do a lot of strings, you don't do that much like stupid stuff or gimmicks. But your offense needs to be developed a little bit more. Something to consider is that kind of like, what is your goal, right? What is your objective? Obviously, you want to win the round, right? But how are you getting there? Think of it like a race. Think of it like a marathon, right? You have to win 3 rounds against your opponent, right? It's not a sprint. Winning 1 round isn't going to do anything to you, right? You got to win 3. So at the starting line, at round start, from to the finish line, which is you winning the match, how are you going to get there? With each step you take, what's the step, right? And the context changes for each interaction. Each step you take could be different. The steps you take when your opponent's back is to the wall is going to be very different from the steps you take when your opponent's just in neutral like this, right? But each thing should come with like a purpose. Your goal should be, let's say at round start, or you're already in the infinite by here, right? Like, your goal here should just be, oh wow, I can just smother them with offense. Why did she press there? You blocked the slash kick. What were you hoping to achieve? Anyway, sorry. Why did they press there? You should be looking at something like this and going, oh, if I get them to the wall, they just kind of freak the fuck out. So your objective should be like, all right, I need to get them to the wall. And then you go to the next level, right? Or you go to the next step. Like, okay, how am I getting them to the wall from this context, right? How am I getting them to the wall here, right? If I empty dash in front of them, will they backdash themselves into the wall, right? Or if I keep doing CD1s, will that get them to the wall, right? Think of what your winning image is. How are you going to achieve that, right? Do you use a lot of mids? Do you use a lot of throws? Do you use a lot of lows? For each of those, how are you going to achieve that option? And the simple answers are, if you use a lot of mids, right, and your opponent's just stand blocking all your mids, then you go, all right, I'm going to start doing lows and throws. And once they start ducking those, you go, haha, I have mids, right? That whole ebb and flow. So try to figure out some kind of like goals and not quite flow charts, but something that you want to, some sort of structure to your offense, and start practicing messing around with those ideas. I feel like that's the biggest thing in neutral, is like when you initiate your offense, experimenting with how you initiate your offense is the biggest goal here, because I feel like you just don't really have a plan right now. You're just kind of, I'm just going to do what are considered good moves and stuff and keep it that, right? But start thinking about, all right, what is my goal in offense? What move here will maximize my reward? Sometimes the reward or the objective should be, I'm going to use a jab and a down forward 1 here, because that'll make them annoyed and force them into taking bigger risks to answer those options, right? And then once they start going for the bigger risks, then you can get more potential reward with your counter hits or other options, right? Like, you don't have to play super compact, but you have to understand the small Tekken is what makes the big Tekken work, right? Your jabs and your down forward 1 interaction and your down 4 interaction are what's going to make your down forward 2 work. That's what's going to make your forward 4 work. That's what's going to make your throws work, stuff like that, right? So utilizing that to condition your opponent, right, to elicit a specific response should be the goal, right? Talked a little bit about neutral. Talked about the approach. Other than that, I think it's fine. I don't think there's anything like critically wrong. I just feel like it's just more so you're not doing enough in these areas. Punishment slash matchup knowledge, right? Look up punish guides. You can do that research on your own. Or punishment stuff, right? Matchup knowledge for... This goes a little bit back into approach, right? But you have to adjust to your opponent. If you're throwing a bunch of keep out tools and they're not biting, you have to change your approach. You have to adjust to the matchup. You have to adjust to your opponent, right? You have to go, oh, they're not running into any of my options, so I should be doing other things, right? And then you should be thinking, okay, how do I make them run into my down forward 1 and down forward 4, right? Then you go, oh, maybe I'll wave dash a little bit, and that'll get them scared and start pressing buttons, and then I'll go back into down forward 1 or down forward 4, right? Stuff like that. Combos slash Oki. I thought combos were fine. Some unfortunate drops here and there. You do what you gotta do to keep it consistent. That's whatever. Oki. You are way too overeager to press buttons on Oki, and it just got you killed a bunch of times across all your matches, right? You have to sometimes remember to like dash in and then backdash to bait a response. I think you could really focus. You could stand to gain a lot more by just focusing on baiting responses from your opponent as opposed to just overcommitting to try and taking your turn or applying some whatever non-existent Oki that Armor King has, right? You have to focus more on what type of opponent am I facing and how to best go about, taking advantage of their habits, basically. Comma slash Oki. Personal opinion stuff. Talked a lot about it, but your jabs are non-existent, right? Think of all the situations where you got counter hit out of things when you could have just done a jab and beaten them, right? You would have beaten their jab. You would have gotten free plus frames with the jab on hit, which you could then, can cash out into a mix-up, cash out into a throw opportunity, or cash out into down forward 1, and then further just focus on poking them down, right? You used down 4 and you used forward neutral 2 a little bit here and there, but I don't think you're using those tools enough, right? If you're trying to discourage your opponent from stepping, right? Yes, down forward 2 works, and down forward 2 works at a specific range, but down 4 has way more range and will get you some chip damage along with it, right? And if they want to answer down 4, they will have to oftentimes commit to a block or commit to a very high risk option, such as like a big low crush or a big hop kick or some shit, right? So down 4 will elicit a response which you can then take advantage of, because if they start ducking down 4, you can start doing back 4, you can start doing down forward 4, you can start doing down forward 1, right? You can use any of your mids. If they start trying to challenge down 4 with hop kicks, right? Just a good read on their timing, or just doing down 4, and then pause and see if they get frustrated enough to immediately hop kick, boom, you get a free punish opportunity, right? So think about all the tools and how you can use them to elicit a response from your opponent, right? So more down 4, more forward neutral 2, right? Try to avoid using down back 3. I think down back 3 is like fine sometimes. I feel like it's more of an online move than anything, but just kind of like it's a homing counter hit low. I think it's fine. But the goal we're trying to focus on here is how to maximize rewards with the least amount of commitment, right? And again, remember, the reward isn't always going to be some big counter hit launch or some big damage. Sometimes it's just going to be as simple as my down forward 1 got blocked. It didn't get stepped. Cool, I can do a jab or a throw, right? Very, very simple rewards, because as you build up those rewards, sometimes the best reward is just chip damage. And as you keep think about it, yes, chip damage is a lower scale reward than, say, a big throw or a launch or something, but it's much easier to achieve, right? And if you keep getting that reward, right, and your opponent's health starts depleting, they'll start going, well, shit, I need to take bigger risks in order to gain back some momentum here. But then when they do that, you'll be able to go for a big reward, right? Because with a good enough read and a good enough read on your opponent's habits or timing, you just go, you're going to press something stupid here. I'm going to backdash for a whiff punish with dark upper, or I'm going to just down forward 2 and then counter hit you out of whatever stupid thing you're going to press, right? So experiment more with your smaller Tekken options, and remember that the reward doesn't have to be like the crazy amazing reward. Sometimes you just take a small poke here and there, and then you just keep using those to build up the foundation, to build up those steps to the actual big rewards that you want. Unless you have just a godlike sense of timing, right? Just pressing CD1, pressing whatever counter hit launcher you have, it's not going to lead anywhere, right? Unless you have a really good sense of timing on when your opponent's going to be falling for it. But you can supplement, if you don't have a good read on your opponent's timing, you can supplement that by conditioning them with your pokes, right? You don't have to have a good read on your opponent's timing. You can force them into a decision that you want them to make, right? Other aspects of personal opinion stuff. CD throws are good. Use CD throws. Use wave dash. I think I talked about all the options I wanted to, right? So I threw a lot at you, right? Some of it I firmly believe in, some of it I'm just kind of whatever about. If anything didn't make sense, if anything you're just kind of like, I think you're full of shit. Completely fair, right? But ask questions. Let us know in the Discord, right? Everybody in Armor King Discord is super helpful. They're always ready to ask questions, talking about Armor King, Tekken in general, etc., 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 right? If you have any questions about anything, let us know. If you'd like me to explain a point, just being like, hey, what the fuck did you mean by this? Feel free to ask, right? And I'll answer when I can. Right? With work and stuff, I'm not always going to answer right away. And if no one has responded to whatever your inquiry was, I will respond when I can. All right? Anyway, yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Stay safe, man. Have a good one.